This is the ASUS ZenBook 14X. It's 16.9mm thin and it features a CPU with 20 threads. So if you're looking for a thin and light laptop with raw CPU horsepower, this might be the one. But hey, if you're looking for a little bit of boost on the graphics side, ASUS is offering a SKU with an RTX 3050. Wait a second. An RTX 3050 in a 2023 laptop? That doesn't sound right. Well, turns out ASUS just couldn't find room to fit the updated RTX 4050 GPU, plus NVIDIA's launch for that GPU didn't really align with when they announced this laptop. Anyways, this thing costs $1,000, which is pretty insane considering the overall package. I think it's the ideal spec for most people, excluding gamers, but you can go for as low as $799 and get a Core i5 CPU with 8 gigs of RAM and half terabyte of storage. Personally, I would avoid that particular model since 8 GB is just not enough for Windows 11. If you do require a DGPU, there is a SKU that goes for $1,500, which gets you a Core i9 3900H with 32 GB of RAM and an RTX 3050. Now from the outside, the 14X resembles a lot like the S13 OLED in terms of design. So both the top and bottom lid are made out of post-consumer recycled aluminum. The keyboard deck is a mix of recycled magnesium and aluminum alloy, and it's put together really well. These materials also contribute to the overall weight of the chassis. This one in particular only weighs around 3.31 pounds, which isn't a whole lot for a 14-inch laptop. This will easily fit inside your backpack or messenger bag. Plus, the included power adapter is also lightweight. It's a 90-watt unit and it charges a laptop over USB Type-C, which also gives you the extra option of charging the laptop via an external battery bank. So props to USB-C. If you look at the design of the 14X, you'll notice a few details like this iconic monogram logo making its way across the panel. This is the Inkwall gray model, but if you do end up picking up the sandstone beige color, I believe, ASUS has applied a plasma ceramic finish, which has increased wear resistance and also has a stone-like finish, kind of like what we got with the S13 OLED. It's also pretty unique and it adds a distinct premium feel that I've never seen on any other laptop. Pretty cool. And moving on to the interior space, this layout is pretty common among other ZenBook laptops. You get some cool hotkey functions that I'm sure would assist your productivity needs, like this screen capture key that lets you quickly take a screenshot without having to launch snipping tool. There's also a dedicated webcam and microphone disable key with respective LED indicators, just for that visual awareness that I appreciate. These keys are also amazing. They feature 1.4mm of key travel, which offers great feedback. So it's great for writing out notes, emails, and doing general laptop things. It is backlit in white, but the brightness levels aren't the greatest. Plus, there's certain keys that lack consistency with illumination. The trackpad features a glass surface, which complements a smooth navigating experience. Plus, they built in the numpad feature as well, so it can simply be activated by tapping this icon right over here. It's pretty amazing to see all these high-end features integrated into a sub $1,000 laptop. ASUS, if you're watching this, good job. As for ports, well, remember, this chassis is only 0.67 inches thin, so there's not a lot of options to work with. But there are some that I value a lot. For instance, you get 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports on the right side, which enables you to power an entire desktop setup if you choose to do so. And it also allows for more expansion. You also get an HDMI 2.1 port, an audio jack, and switching over to the left side, you get a single full-size USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A port. Now this is pretty impressive considering how most thin and lights switch entirely to USB-C. Having a Type A port is great and it can come in clutch just to plug in those USB accessories. Speaking of accessories, I don't know if you would consider a desktop PC as an accessory for your laptop. Actually, I don't even know if that makes sense. But anyways, if you're planning on building a desktop PC, check out these cool new cases from Fractal Design.
Whoa, dude, that was so rich last night. You went to the Ridge? Of course, I had a secret code. What is it? It was Ridge. That's rich, man. That's rich. Wait a second, is that a Ridge? Yep. Didn't have to go anywhere last night. Dude, that's so rich. An evolution in slim towers designed to fit your space for gaming or entertainment, standing tall or laying flat, with powerful fans to scare the heat. A Gen 4 riser cable is included, so you can find your own balance. That's Ridge for you, the talk of the town. Bridget below.
So this is what the webcam looks like on the ZenBook 14X, and the quality is really, really good. ASUS is using a 1080p sensor, so it's great for business meetings and things like that. Plus, you are getting an amazing microphone as well. ASUS has implemented their AI noise canceling characteristics, so it does a really good job. Again, it's one of the best mics that you can find on a laptop, which is great. And you can obviously cycle between different microphone modes as well. So if you need omnidirectional, that's an option. All of that can be controlled through the My ASUS app. I do want to quickly talk about these speakers. Now, they are bottom facing, but they're actually designed in a slightly different way. Instead of just them facing the surface, it's slightly angled. What that does is it actually kind of bounces off the sides to give you a somewhat reasonable sound signature. It sounds decent. I wouldn't say it's MacBook level or, the Lenovo Slim 7 level good, but it's pretty darn impressive considering the form factor. And it'll just get the job done.
Shifting gears to the display, ASUS has opted for a 16:10 OLED panel with a 2.8K resolution that runs at 120 Hz. Now, by default, they have set it to 60 Hz, which I'm sure is done to preserve battery life. But yeah, if you need a fluid experience with Windows, be sure to change that setting. As for the screen itself, I'm sure you're aware of the rich colors and inky blacks that OLED offers. ASUS has improved the color accuracy by getting it Pantone validated. Plus, you can change the color profile through the My ASUS app to better suit your requirements. If you intend to get any creative work done, like maybe editing photos, this panel is great as it covers 100% sRGB, 97% Adobe RGB, and 100% P3. The peak brightness output on my sample was around 362 nits under a controlled lighting environment. Now, another thing I noticed is that when I'm sitting outside, especially in bright sunlight, the brightness does boost automatically. And I think it uses the sensor, the ambient light sensor, to just boost the levels. As you can see right now, the blacks are definitely boosted, and if I switch over in this mode where it's slightly dim, there you go. You can see that it kind of dims and sets it back. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that. I mean, it does kind of makes the colors kind of look washed out, which is not particularly my cup of tea, but it's good. If you just want to look at things and get work done, then yeah, it's a great feature. Getting underneath the hood is pretty straightforward. Once you remove the Torx screws, you'll notice that the memory is soldered onto the PCB, which is unfortunate, so you only get one shot at configuring that before you buy it. The primary NVMe SSD is right over here, and the drive speeds are pretty good. It's not the fastest out there, plus there is no secondary M.2 slot for storage expansion. All right, so ASUS avoided using Intel's more efficient and cooler running P&U series processors for the 14X. In fact, it's really hard to find laptops with those series of processors. But now that you have a 20-thread H-series chip inside this thin light laptop, does that hurt power and temperatures? I mean, look, the 13700H isn't operating anywhere near the 65 watts and more than it normally would on a thicker gaming laptop. But ASUS still managed to squeeze 45 watts out of it in performance mode, which still keeps temperatures and noise in check. That's pretty impressive. Meanwhile, if you want even lower temperatures and noise or simply extend battery life, then standard mode will be your thing. Whisper mode gets cut down a ton, but there's a good reason for that. It actually puts the 14X into a semi-passive mode that was actually quieter than our room's noise floor. Take a listen with it under a full core workload. Personally, I think this is just perfect for those situations where you don't need all of the 13700H's performance, like when taking notes in class or just watching some YouTube videos. Now, unfortunately, running a chip like this can take a serious hit on battery life. I consider anything under 12 hours for a thin and light to be a pretty big failure, and the ZenBook here gets, well, under 9 hours. Yikes. Now, switching to something a bit more demanding like watching a YouTube video, this laptop actually pulls out some decent numbers. It still can't touch the AMD machines, but then again, nothing can. Now, when you hit it with a heavy load, and the battery gets munched down in just 90 minutes in balance mode. So yeah, you're sacrificing battery life to get the 13700H inside this laptop. But anyways, moving on to performance results, and I guess they're a little bit one-sided since we haven't looked at any comparable laptops this year. So naturally, the 14X walks over everything else here in multi-core workloads since it has a much more powerful CPU. And yet, when you combine multi-core and more lightly thorough workloads, performance is super inconsistent. Sometimes it's
ahead, while other times laptops from 2022 end up being a bit better. It's nothing to be super concerned about though. But then again, seeing something like this XPS 13 cut a solid 5 minutes off of its rendering time is kind of interesting, because for some reason, this laptop actually was running its integrated GPU at consistently higher frequency during this test. Now, gaming is a bit of a mixed bag as well. Overall, it performs well for integrated graphics, but a lot of the times its 1% lows get dominated by the 680M inside the ZenBook S13 OLED. Other times, the higher-end processor is going to destroy everything else in games that tend to have a CPU bottleneck like Dota and Rainbow Six. Of course, if you wanted a bit more, or I guess a whole lot of gaming performance, you probably want to grab the 14X with the 13900H and an RTX 3050, but that thing costs about 50% more. Plus, there are plenty of other gaming laptops around the $1,500 price point that would give you a heck of a lot better price to performance ratios without sacrificing too much in the weight department. So that's the story with the ZenBook 14X, guys. It's an amazing laptop for the price. I mean, getting a really fast Core i7 CPU for $1,000 is a steal in my opinion. Not only that, but you also get a lot of the premium features found on ASUS's own flagship series, like a beautiful 2.8K OLED display with 120Hz refresh rate that gives you an incredible viewing experience. Plus, it features touch support. The integrated numpad is an awesome addition for those who work with numbers, and I really like the design. Now, I'll leave links down below if you're interested in picking one up. I'm Ibra with Hardware Canucks. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Also, spend responsibly.